We're starting with activity 4-1, set up and configure folder permissions. We are going to, on the server, there's this guy, set up some shares. We're going to set up a folder, set security, and then set shares so that other people on the network can get to files on our server. That's one of the purposes of a server, is a file server. So we want to be on our server, this PC and your C drive. And we're going to make a data folder right here. That's going to store all our other folders and all of our files that we're going to share out. We're going to call it data. There. Now the next part says, let's take a look at the security. Whoops, when did it do that? There we go. Why is it doing that? Go back. There. I want to right click on data and go to properties. We have two tabs that control who can do what. Let's look at security. Right now, creator owner has like little or no permissions. Creator owner means that you created the file. We typically don't use that when we are setting up securities. We remove that. System means the operating system. Server 2025. Server 2025 has to have access to everything, or it can't do its job of being an operating system. So that has to be in there. Same with administrators. Our administrator account we're using is part of the administrators group. And as administrators, we have to have full access to get our job done. And at this point, users only have read and execute list folder contents and read, which is fine. We're just going to leave this alone. This is going to be the root of where we're going to put our other folders for all of our groups. We were just looking at the permissions. So underneath data, we're going to create one for accounting. So right click new, accounting. And does everybody have sales people?
Yeah.
Okay, because Hope only has sales people. At this point, you should have accounting, administration, operations, research, and sales. I'm just going to use sales as my example today. I'm not going to go through and create everything. Now we want to look at sales. Now remember, sales is underneath data. And when we're dealing with permissions on a file system, we're dealing with what's called inherited permissions. These are the same permissions we had at the data level. They also apply to the sales level, and they'll apply to anything underneath. Well, at this point, we don't necessarily want everybody having access to the sales files. So what we're going to do is turn off the inheritance and specifically allow the salespeople access to this folder, but nobody else. So to turn off the inheritance, we go to advanced. Right here, disable inheritance. And it's going to say blah, 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 blah. You're about to block inheritance to this object. That's fine, because from this point on, we're establishing who has access to the sales folder. And you'll end up doing this for accounting, administration, research, and operations. That's why we put all of our people into a group, so that we can manage what they can get to on the server by the group that they're in. So we're going to convert it into explicit, and then we click OK. Now, creator owner is something we don't really use much, so we're going to go to edit. Now we can remove things. We are not going to remove system. We're not going to remove administrators, because those are both needed for the server to work right. However, we don't want all users in the sales folder looking at things. So we're going to remove them. We are going to add our sales group. I don't know if I have one or not. No, I don't. Just a second here. When you create users and groups, the Microsoft way to do this is you create your user, you add all your user to the global group. I only have one. And then the global group becomes a member of the domain local group. The domain local group gets attached to the resource. Why is that, you ask? I've had network administrators ask me that, and I said, because Microsoft says so. No, that's not why. So we aren't getting that complex, but if, for instance, we had a administrators group, like the CEOs group. So we had a CEOs group and they wanted to have read access to everything. We could add the CEOs group to this, and then they would have the same access that everybody else has to sales or some other. We aren't getting that complex, but that's the reason we have two layers. So we go back here because I was over here and I did not have my people. Now I have my people. Oh, I didn't want that people. I wanted the group. So DL is domain local. There it is. So the domain local is the only group that goes in here. All the connecting up and putting of people is done in the global group. So you can think of this like it's the domain local group. It is connected to the resource. Every group that you put into here has access to this resource. So we go ahead and click OK. Now, system, full control. Sales. Oh, why didn't I give them full control? Well, because Microsoft said so. No, because the only people that need full control is the operating system and administrators. The only difference between modify and full control can change permissions, share things out. We don't want users doing administrative level things, so modify is all they need. When we click OK, we have now set the permissions for this to only be for anybody in the sales group, plus administrators, plus this operating system. They always have to have access. All right, well, the next thing we want to do is let's create a file in here just to see how our permissions apply. I'm going to do a text document since there's not much on server. We'll just say sales test. Let's look at that. Right click, go to properties, and we will see that in the security tabs. Look at there. It inherited from our sales folder, just like it's supposed to. So any folders, any files, anything that gets shuffled into here automatically picks up this security. We don't have to set securities anymore for this folder. Typically, you don't have to do denies or anything like that if you set things up right in the first place. Well, the other thing, this is great, but this only allows salespeople to have access if they have access to logging into the server. Do we allow users to log on to the server? Locally to the server, like an administrator person?
No.
No, they have no business here. They do need to get to these files over the network. So to make that available over the network, we need to share it out, meaning share it out so that it can be accessed over the network. We're going to right click on sales, go back to the properties we were working with earlier, and go to sharing. And right, you can see here, it's not shared out. We're going to go down to advanced sharing because that's where all the goodies are. And we're going to share the folder, and I think probably sales is a good name, right? Makes sense. Permissions. Yes, oh. Oh, permissions. Oh, well, we're going to allow everybody to have full control. And you can see there's not as many permissions at this level. it can be very confusing if you try to match share permissions and file permissions. It's just as impossible. So again, the Microsoft way is to give everybody full control on the share. However, that allows people to come in over the network, but can they get into this folder? Because file permissions trump everything. They may be able to get over with the sharing, but they're not going to get onto the file system of the server unless they're in this list. And this has a lot, you can see it has a lot more ways to allow people to use and not do things. So the rule of thumb is you give everybody permission on the share part and you lock it down with the NTFS, which is the name of the file system. NTFS includes security. So you can say, based on who you've logged in as, what you can do. Well, we probably should see if this works, don't you think? And it does say finish this for all your business units, but I'm not going to do that. But we do want to go here. And this is a quick way to say, to find out, did it get shared? Well, we can look at it from here. So we do //server1. And there it is. There's our little guy we made. Now the next test is, can we get to it from our Windows 11? Well, first we probably have to be logged in with the right person on Windows 11. So I'm going to go to other user, sales. I know there's a sales one because I just made him. And let's see, password 01. Oh, this is going to take a minute because I haven't logged in with this before. Here we are logged in as sales one. I'm going to go to my file explorer. This is called a UNC path, a universal naming convention. Notice that it leans to the left, where whenever we type in website addresses, it leads to the right. Because we're accessing files in a server. Oh, look at there. Can I get in? I should be able to. Yep, working on it. It's just, I think my computer is still logged. Oh, there it is. Let me see if I can open my file. This is everything we wanted it to be. We can store all of our files in one place. All the clients can get to that information and change it, as long as they're in the sales group. Yep. Oh, I didn't type anything in. And then I can save it. And it'll be there the next time. Now, you're probably not going to want to tell people, oh, by the way, when you log into your computer, you have to type //server1/sales to get to your files. Nobody does that. So we're going to work with group policies so that we can map drives. And I'm going to skip 4-2 and go to 4-3.